folks. Want to welcome y'all out to the caverns today. My name is Todd. I'm going to be your tour guide, and we're going to see a couple of different caves. One is the music venue, and one is the brand new cave that we just opened up. So follow me, and we're going to take a little journey. Now we do 75 concerts a year. It's 1,200 people can be here standing, 850 seated. Last year in 2019, of the 50 shows we did, half of those artists had either played Red Rocks and sold out Red Rocks, or the Ryman, two of the most iconic music venues in the world, and they played the caverns. So we're bringing folks in that are super high level across all genres of music.
Well, we've made it to Short Springs State Natural Area in Tullahoma, Tennessee. We're going to see some more beautiful wildflowers here at Short Springs. Come on with us. This is a mound of rocks, one of two right here together, where the rivers meet. And this area is covered with wildflowers, spring beauties, dwarf larkspur, phlox.
Edition of Community Insider. Join us as we travel Middle Tennessee, uncovering history and experiencing the adventure of unique stories and events coming to you inside your community.
The cave tour starts right here at what was the historic entrance into where we're going, which is called Big Room Cave. Now, everybody, Colin, did you get fit for your little harness? We're going to lower you each down one by one, and then we're going to start this tour. All right. Now, that's not true, but that used to be true. That's the old way that you had to go down there. So the first 10 times I came into where we're about to go, you had to go rappel down there about 15 feet, crawl on your belly another 50 yards, rappel down again, crawl on your belly, and then by and by you'd come into Big Room Cave. But I wanted folks to be able to walk down there. So let's do that. Follow me. So we just opened up on July 4th. We celebrated our birthday on America's birthday, 2020. And apparently I've been told that we're the first show cave to open up in the country in like 70 years. So it's not like a lot of folks are opening up new show caves these days, but we did. And so if you see this great big hole in the ground right here, this used to look like this. This was our parking lot for concerts. And so what we did, we got down to a place down here in Big Room Cave, and we said, yep, this is about where we'd like people. Now I'm underground now. I said, this is about where we'd like people to walk in. So we put an orange tag on the ceiling. And then we had to figure out, well, where do we start digging? So Colin, what we did is we got these little bats, these little baby bats, and we trained them. And I gave them a little dropper from when they were little babies, and by, once they got old enough, we were able to send them up, and okay, no, we didn't do that. I'm messing with you again, but what we did do is take echolocation, which is bat technology, the same thing, but I used GPS, radio location, and we found a point above ground that was directly above where we were, and we put a big X there, and we started digging, and that was November 1st, 2020. So we just started digging a few months ago, and we dug in November, and we dug in December. And right before Christmas, we connected the two. As a matter of fact, we were sitting there this day, and 3 of the guys had gone down into the cave. And they were supposed to, at a prearranged time, because it took about 30 minutes of rappelling and belly crawling to get to where they were going, we were going to talk to each other. And there was a little bitty crack, and I was, hello! And they were trying to scream, but I couldn't hear them, and they couldn't hear me. And out of frustration, because it had been about 45 minutes, almost an hour, I picked up this rock, and not this rock, but a rock, picked up a rock, and I went, and I thought I might have heard. And then I went, and then I was pretty sure I heard. And so I went, and I heard. And I said, hey! And I started screaming out, and then I could hear them, and they followed the sound of my voice, and I never could see them, but I got about within 10 feet or so. They were underneath, and then we put another X there, and that was the day we broke on through, and we connected the underground with the above ground in a really cool way. So that was a good Christmas present. Now, we're in Grundy County. Grundy County is one of the highest points, it's in the, between Chicago and Miami, they say. Wow. It's, most of it sits atop the Cumberland Plateau. We're in the lower part of the Upper Cumberland. They call it the Lower Cumberland Plateau, home to some of the finest hikes and trails. You got Fiery Gizzard State Park, Stone Door, Monteagle Mountain, but I don't know, maybe 80–90% of Grundy County is in the highlands. 10–15% is down here in the valley, and of course that's where they make caves. And this area was settled historically by the Woodland Indians, 1000 BC, and they lived here till about 1000 AD. After that, the Cherokee lived here, and they lived here until they didn't live here anymore, and that's a whole nother story. I'd recommend a book called Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by Dee Brown if you want to learn more about it. The first Europeans to settle this area were from Switzerland, and they settled up on top of the mountain, and also a lot of folks from Scotland and Ireland settled up there, the Scots-Irish from Northern Ireland, Scotland, and they all settled up here because this approximated the kind of land of where they come from. Now here you're about to start feeling nature's air conditioning. You feel that? We'll stop right here for just a second. So the Scots and the Irish lived here, and they discovered coal. And of course, wherever you discover coal, you're going to have a couple people getting really rich and a lot of people getting really poor. And so in 1932, right up here on the mountain, just up from here, they established the Highlander Folk School, a guy named Miles Horton. And it was to fight for the rights for these poor Appalachian coal miners, and also to preserve their cultural history and their heritage, which was a noble thing to do. They got so good at that by the 1950s, it became the preeminent training ground for the civil rights movement in the United States of America. A lot of people don't know that. Rosa Parks, raise your hand, you heard of Rosa Parks. Well, she didn't just stand up on that bus and say, I ain't giving up my seat. She was trained in civil disobedience at the Highlander Folk School just up the mountain. Dr. Martin Luther King was there. Eleanor Roosevelt was there. We Shall Overcome was written by Pete Seeger in Grundy County, Tennessee at the Highlander Folk School. So it's got a wonderful history. It's a beautiful place on earth, and it's even got some underground history. So follow me, and we're going to learn a little bit about that. Where we're walking right now, and watch your head there if you need to. Where we're walking right now was the hardest part of doing this. In just a minute, we're going to be in Big Room Cave, but we're not there yet. We're in the path that we had to create so we could get there. So you see all this breakdown right here? That's what they call big rocks that have fallen down over millions of years ago. It's called breakdown. All of this path we're walking through looked like this. So we had to take big rocks and turn them into itty-bitty rocks and then haul them out of here. And that's what we spent the month of January, February, March, April, and half of May doing. But it was good because it got us to where we're about to go. Once you step off of this path and onto this dirt, you are officially in Big Room Cave. And from this point forward, we didn't do one single thing. All we did was light the cave. That's all we did. We didn't do any blasting, any nothing. We just lit the cave. Now, to commemorate the people that worked so hard, we dedicated this plaque. This says, "This plaque commemorates the people who labored to open up this passage and light this cave so that it could be enjoyed throughout time. July 4th, 2020. This is where our adventure tour begins. So we started doing adventure tours. Big Room Cave is not the only cave here. When you go through something, it takes about 12, 15 minutes, but it's some serious crawling. And you go through this one thing called Tombstone Pass. At one point, not for long, but at one point the cave is touching your belly and your back at the same time. You better shimmy on through that. Once you get through there, it opens up like something out of the Goonies. There's underground waterfalls, crystals every way, Lake Mopedji, Lost River, and it's absolutely some of the most beautiful cave you'll ever see. So here at the Caverns, we have a music venue. We've got this tour of Big Room Cave, and we also offer adventure tours. It takes about 3 hours, and it's totally worth doing for those that are adventurous at heart. It's funny, you never know what can happen when you go into a cave. And in 2008, I went into a cave for the first time, and I had this idea to bring people together through music in a magical caverns. And I was on the tour, and it wasn't this cave, it was another cave. And I asked the tour girl that was doing the tour, Taylor, I said, "By God, do y'all have live music down here?" And she said, "No, but that'd be a good idea." Well, yada, yada, yada. Not having any experience in the music business, in about 10 weeks, I brought sound engineers down, did a deal with the cave, put it on WSM, the home of the Grand Ole Opry, right before the Grand Ole Opry on Saturday nights as a radio show. Sold a sponsor, Ascend Federal Credit Union out of Tullahoma. Always helps to have a good sponsor attached. Called it Bluegrass Underground because I love bluegrass. It wasn't just bluegrass, but I like the metaphor of bluegrass and underground. And booked the Steel Drivers, who at the time, their lead singer was a man named Chris Stapleton, and a wonderful band they still are. So we were off and running. And by and by, a guy out of Cookeville heard about this crazy guy doing shows in caves on the Cookeville paper, and he came to interview me for an NPR radio segment. And in the course of the interview, I told him, he asked me, "What's your vision for this?" And I said, "I'd love to do Austin City Limits from a cave on PBS." And he said, "That's funny. That's what I do." And I said, "What was your name again?" And he said, "Todd." And I said, "I can remember that because that's my name." And so we formed a production company called Todd Squared, and yada, yada, yada. We're now have done 9 seasons. We were supposed to take season 10 before the COVID hit, and we've won multiple Emmy Awards, and the show airs in 99% of the country, just like Austin City Limits. And we've done productions now in Cuba and Ireland and all over, and my whole life changed from walking in a cave. But we did it in that other cave for about 8 years. And, you know, normally in life, you start with the ideal, and then reality intercedes, right? Part of the journey of life is sort of, you know, accepting realities. But then sometimes you take reality and you try to make it ideal. Well, the reality was we were in a very special cave. People came from all over the country, and it was wonderful. But it wasn't ideal. It wasn't handicap accessible. We had outgrown it. It was only 600 patrons. We needed more. And I needed something that I could own and control, because I truly believe that this is all going to stand the test of time. And so I got to looking for a new cave. And I said, well, there's 8,000 caves in Tennessee. Maybe I can find one that's more suited for what we're doing, that's easier to get into, easier to get out of, does our production better, and that can be a full-time music venue. Because where we were was not a full-time music venue. So, and this is the way the Spirit was with us, we only looked at one cave. And I heard about this cave, wasn't on a map, but a caver friend told my general manager about this historically called Big Mouth Cave. And we went around, and we were walking through the forest, and at one point, back over here by this cedar tree, I said, "I just don't know where it is." And I started walking over like this, and he goes, "There it is!" And by God, there it was. So follow me. They call this Big Mouth Cave, and you can see why. If you took the Leaning Tower of Pisa and knocked it over, it could fit in the mouth of this cave. It's 185 feet wide. And there's a west sump cave that goes to the left that goes on for 5,000 feet all the way to Sarton Springs. The music venue part just goes back about 300 feet, and that's where we are now. And can you imagine, they say it's the largest commercial cave entrance in the country. Cathedral Caverns, it's even a little bit wider than that, which is amazing to think. So these doors, these magic doors were made by a friend of mine named Rob Morrow. He's a great woodworking artist. And I told y'all on this tour before that this used to be Cherokee country. And we learned about the Noonie High, which are the folklore, mythological folks that live underground. But there was a Cherokee man named Sequoyah. And Sequoyah did something that no other human being has ever done in the history of this world. He invented his entire alphabet and language for his Cherokee people by himself. Most language and linguistics evolve. So, you know, Japanese, English, Italian, Swahili, that's over generations and generations. That just doesn't, one person doesn't do that. Sequoyah did. And so I wanted to honor the Cherokee people, and I wanted to have something burned into these doors. So I partnered with the Sequoyah Birthplace Nation and the Cherokee Nation, the Sequoyah Birthplace Museum and the Cherokee Nation, to have this inscription put in here. And what it translates to is what I feel we're all about here at the Caverns. And what it says is, welcome to the Caverns, where the Great Spirit brings all people together through music. Of course, I call it the Holy Spirit, they call it the Great Spirit, but it's the same difference. Welcome to the Caverns. So the first time I ever walked into this cave, I could touch the ceiling from the stage. So we would have all been under earth right now. And somebody said to me, Todd, how did you turn a wild cave into a music venue? And I told them the truth. I said, well, that's about a 3-beer story. And it is. But the gist of it is, it involved a lot of gist. Geologist, hydrologist, biologist, and archaeologist.
Well, this morning we're at Old Stone Fort State Park in Manchester, Tennessee. We wanted to come see some of the spring colors. You know, we take a lot of fall color hikes, also spring color hikes, like the redbud growing here at Old Stone Fort, right here by the river, by the dam here. It's just beautiful. And we're going to see a lot of that. We're also going to see a lot of beautiful wildflowers here. Not only at Old Stone Fort, we're going to make a couple of stops today as we go hunting for spring wildflowers. Glad you're with us. Hope you enjoy it. Come on. It's overcast this morning here at Old Stone Fort, but pretty good for shooting, for photographing nature. And this beautiful redbud in front of this little waterfall over across the river. This is the Duck River, by the way. Not very many people out today. At least not yet. It'll fill up later on, but we're glad to be here when it's more or less empty. A lot quieter, except for the dogs barking across the river. That dog's been here for years and years. As we come around the bend to the Forks of the River Trail, we run into this wood betony right here on the banks, right by the trail. We've made it to the fork of the Little Duck and Big Duck rivers, and we've come to where a lot of wildflower hunters like to go. That's where the bluebells are, the Virginia bluebells. A lot of them in this area. There's a big patch right over here, and then beyond the hill there are many more, and they are gorgeous. Let's take a closer look. Aren't these beautiful? You gotta be careful where you step. You don't want to step on any. These are Virginia bluebells. The reason they call them Virginia bluebells, that's where they were first studied. They are obviously blue, but you also have some pink on here as well. Just a beautiful stand of Virginia bluebells, and a lot of wildflower lovers like to come to Old Stone Fort just to see the Virginia bluebells. Aren't they beautiful? See Deb walking the trail, alongside which thousands of spring beauties. This is a mound of rocks, one of two right here together where the rivers meet. And this area is covered with wildflowers, spring beauties, dwarf larkspur, phlox, Trillium growing here as well. Just beautiful. This little guy is called Jacob's Ladder. Beautiful little flower. A lot of them here at Old Stone Fort. This little yellow flower is roundleaf ragwort. There's a lot of them growing here by the river. Here's a beautiful hillside full of mayapple and phlox. Phlox, the purple flowers you see scattered about. Mayapple with the big leaves. Some of them will be blooming eventually. And the whole hillside is just covered with phlox and mayapple. Well, we've enjoyed our trip to Old Stone Fort and Short Springs State Natural Area today. It's been a fun hunt for wildflowers. Boy, did we find them. Been a lot of fun. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you next time when we explore another Tennessee trail.